Hello, back again with more death because who doesn't like death, right? Anyways, so today I'm doing like a little short story anthology thing, and this is called Alternative Deathiness. Um, and yeah, the cover's kind of whack. This is an independent press published book by B Cubed, who were apparently formed after like the 2016 Trump election, and sort of like they do open calls for stories and things like that, and sort of you know they like to sort of put stuff out that makes people think. And the first book that they put out was a compilation called Alternative Truth. And as they say, they sort of like to, in that book anyways, kind of exploring like the future of humanity, and things like that. So I haven't read that one, but this one is kind of like the same idea. Uh, so it's a bunch of short stories that explore sort of different facets of death, dying, grieving, and things like that. So and there's also poetry in it as well too. But I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a big fan of poetry, so I did skip those ones. But yeah, so it's edited by Phyllis Irene Radford and Bob Brown, and Bob Brown is the creator of the Cubed Press. So it's got actually like quite a lot of stories in it, like almost 20, and most of them are just like a few pages long. Um, it's kind of cool though, because one of the reasons that I like, anthology books like this is that it sort of, it gives you like a little bit of everything. Um, there's like science fiction, there's mystery, there's, just sort of like human interest kind of stories. Just like short little clips that kind of like suck you into someone's life and then sort of spit you out again. And kind of makes you think about, how would you handle certain situations, like you dying or the death of a loved one, or like, one of the first stories that's in here is about uh, death camps, but not in like the Holocaust kind of way of a death camp. Essentially, what it is that like, do you remember that guy who I don't remember his name? Bought out like this like drug patent, and then like he raised the price of it like 1,000%. I forget his name. Like I think they called him Pharma Bro. Um, but there's someone in that story in the very first one, um, and it's called the bodies we carry, and who's done something like that where people like can't afford their drugs or their medical care or whatnot, and so what this volunteer institution has done is like for 36 hours like they're allowed to put dead bodies like on the front lawn of this pharma bros house kind of thing, and just sort of like have loved ones like camp out there with them for like 36 hours, or like the people they loved who died kind of thing. It's like a almost like a protest against the cost of medical care and things like that. And like, could something like that happen today? Like, I have no idea, but it's it's an interesting form of protest. You know what I mean? Um, and like all sorts of people are there, like people who've lost like parents, spouses, kids, babies, like that whole sort of thing. And it's about this one woman's experience with like her husband who died, and her relating to the other people like in this camp kind of thing, because this is what he wanted her to do. Like that's what was in his will, was like, take me to one of these camps, like I want to sort of protest even though I'm deceased kind of thing. Excuse me. And like there's another one in here which is more of like kind of a bizarre science fiction kind of religious story called Miracle Man, about it's like sort of post-apocalyptic landscape, where humanity's kind of like, the environment's ruined and the water's toxic and humanity's living in camps. And this guy who used to be a televangelist, like Jim Baker kind of thing, milking people for their money while like performing miracles, that whole kind of thing, and funding his like lavish lifestyle and whatnot. And he was like super famous, and he kind of gets rescued by this machine robot thing, from death and dehydration or whatnot. And he thinks like, oh, this machine that they used in the wars like can supply like fresh water, and it can like cleanse food and like do all this sort of stuff, whatever. I'm gonna take this thing, and go to camps, and like I'm gonna make my fortune, and I'll be famous again, and like it's like he's kind of sliding back into that old life. Um, but he ends up taking the thing to like this camp, but he ends up being almost kind of like bizarrely raptured, um, by this like robot machine thing, wherein he gives him the ability to like cleanse the water himself and stuff like that, right? And so like he turns into this miracle man who can do all these things, and the people are like, "Oh my god, like we can't let you go now. Like you're our savior. Like you can save us. You can give us fresh water, and like we can live, and you can cure diseases and all this stuff." And they end up like slapping him in like shackles and imprisoning him, and like basically using him like he was going to use this like he was going to use this like crazy machine to do it all for him, right? And so it's kind of like a taste of your own medicine type of thing. So neat stuff like that. um some of it's like a little creepy, like some of it's sort of ghost stories. There's a few stories in here about death as a person, like personification of death. And in one case, like it's a death kind of hops from person to person, and the experience of like a child who dies and becomes death kind of thing. And then when you just sort of wear yourself out getting souls, you just kind of pass into the next person, and that's just the way it is. Yeah, so there's some really good stories in here. There's some, of course, that I mean, with any kind of like short story thing, you're not going to really go in for. Um, One thing that like irks me, and like I find this with a lot of stuff that's independent press release things, is that like there's there's problems in the production. So like there's one whole story in here that's in a completely different typeface than the rest of the book, and I'm just like, oh my god, because it throws you out of the loop, right? And like there's definitely like spelling mistakes and things that could have been caught with like a really professional editor, for these. So that was a little bit of cattail right there. Chippy is up on my desk being cute, but she's not going to show herself because she's shy. Maybe someday. Yeah, so I mean, but apart from that, I mean, that's just something that bothers me as, you know, I don't want to say a grammar, the N word grammar Nazi. Um, but yeah, I find stuff like that though also pulls you out of the story, because you just kind of get caught on it. You're just like, what the hell? Like, what does that mean? Or like, it's missing a word, or like, there's no punctuation, or like, that's misspelled. And it just kind of sucks you out of it, which is really shitty as well, too. So with like probably better editing and things like that, like it would have been much better. But I mean, a whole chapter in a different typeface. What the hell? Anyways, um, I mean, this isn't my book. It was actually, I sort of borrowed it from my partner. So like, I don't think I would search out any more of these books from this press, just because I mean, like this one was kind of up my alley because of the whole like death concept thing, and you know, goth, death, whatever. I'm into it. I'll check it out. But like, there were some interesting things in here, but nothing that I would search out again. So yeah, that's just me. I mean, if you want some interesting little quick read, short stories about like, death, dying, all that sort of stuff. Death is a anthropomorphic construct, you know, things like that. Check it out. I'm not sure where you could find it, to be honest. I'm not even sure where he got it. I think he might have gotten it through his work. But yeah, B Cubed Press, Alternative Deathiness. They have a website. You can go check it out. And that's it for this one. It's a little short guy. Thanks. Bye.